Lele, happy Tongan Language Week. I'll open the meeting with the karakia. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai. E hi ake ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei mauri ora. Welcome everyone to today's Kōrau Tōtōpū Long-Term Plan Finance Performance Committee meeting. Please let me or Lacey know if you intend to leave the meeting. Morning tea will be at 10:30. We'll just start with apologies. I have an apology from lateness from Councillor Wenera. Councillor Free's here, yes?
So I have an apology, I may have to leave early.
Okay, and from Councillor Randall for early departure depending. He whakata kotoa ana o I te motini. I move the motion that we accept those apologies. Do I have a seconder? Pauiwi Hohaia was the first hand I saw. I'll now put that motion which has been moved and seconded. Ka whakapuaki au kua mana te motini. I declare the motion carried. Conflict of interest declarations. Does anybody have any to declare? Looks like we don't. So we'll move on to confirmation of the minutes. E whakata koto ana au I te motini. I move the motion that we approve the minutes of our meeting held on 17th of August 2023. Mā wai e tautoko. Do I have a seconder? Councillor O'Neill. E nai ka potitia te motini. I'll put that motion which has been moved and seconded. That is carried, and there are no items not on the agenda and also no requests for public participation. So we will move on to our first item of business, being the Rating Policy Review consultation document. No mai Andrea Reeves and Raina Kiriyama ki te horo o te kōrero. Please welcome Andrea and Raina to introduce the report.
Kia ora koutou. So today's report is requesting the adoption of the consultation for the proposed changes to the rating policies. On the 17th of August, we brought a paper to you to recommend the proposed changes, and today is to look at those changes again through the consultation document and essentially approve that document to go out and consult with the public. Any questions?
I have one, which is just to check in with a few of the minor changes or corrections that have been made since the paper has been distributed.
Yes,
could you talk us through those?
Yes, sure, absolutely. There's been a couple of changes, minor changes that don't change the policies or anything significantly, just some wording changes around the 3-year earthquake strengthening, so we've changed that to just the earthquake strengthening, not properties that are being developed. There's been some minor wording changes around the derelict buildings, and just that the definition will be finalised when we draft the policies through the long-term plan. We've also made it clear in there with a statement around the mechanism for incentivising development is through the district plan, so just a statement in those regards.
There was just the correction around the date for the...
Yes, the date's been updated as well.
That's the date for the timing of the... you'll be relieved to hear, Councillor Brown, that the land value tax, the land value rating will come back to us within this term, because I know you're very excited to see it come back. Sorry, and so Councillor Pennant?
Thank you, staff, for being so accommodating. I appreciate it. Andrea, just as discussed, I would like to put in a question about actually, if my amendment passes around the first home builders, that we actually increase the remission to maybe 10 or 15K so that it's comparable with owners of earthquake-prone buildings. Is that possible?
So this is a consultation document that we are proposing to send out to the community. So we could possibly add a question into the consultation document just to say, you know, do you consider the $5,000 threshold sufficient, or would it be reasonable to increase that threshold? And that could be debated as part of the hearings on the rating policy. That wouldn't be a problem.
So it doesn't need a separate amendment? And no. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Calvert.
Yes, just in terms of amendments to the document and the submission form, just confirming that you were referencing committee members, not just
Correct. We made your
councillors.
change to the document.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Looks like there are not. Thank you, Raina.
Thank you.
I will move this paper. And I haven't got a seconder, but Councillor Panovich will second. Thank you. He's Johnny on spot. So I just want to thank officers for their work, and you know, it's great to be moving along with this. I'm very interested to get into the hearings. You know, I have, you know, I'm really interested to be able to get into, you know, hearing from the public, from businesses, from residential ratepayers, and asking some questions about the impact of some of the changes we're suggesting, and hearing those answers, and you know, moving forward into the next piece. So just thanking everybody for the, thank you especially to Raina for the very fine paper, and Councillor Panovich, do you wish to speak as seconder? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think this is one that I'm very keen to get out there for consultation. A significant number of people do discuss rates differentials, rating schemes, what's in, what's out with me on literally a daily basis. I had a property developer discuss it with me yesterday. So I'm very, very interested to put this out there and to get the feedback on it. Thank you.
Great stuff. We might move on to Councillor Pannett, who has an amendment. So we'll do that amendment now. Do you have a seconder, Councillor Pannett?
I appointed Councillor O'Neill too.
Oh, beautiful. All right.
Thank you. And look, I am too very keen to hear back from the public, so I think we should all do a lot of work, you know, as councillors to promote that people do need to have a say. This is really important. And thanks to officers for being so open-minded and providing us with some good advice. It's clear that we need more funding tools, so it's good that we're indicating that we are looking at other avenues of funding, because we've got a lot to do. So yeah, just I really appreciate officers cleaning up that issue around derelict buildings, because let's be clear, and to the public, this policy will potentially apply to buildings like Courtenay Central, the Amora Hotel, and that is a good thing. It is not acceptable that they have been sitting there and they need to be developed. So it is right, if we have the powers to do that, to charge people more. But I think we just need to make sure the wording is very tight, because this is a legal document. Look, I did ask officers to take out general development in terms of that policy around giving people 3 years remission, because I thought it really was policy on the hoof. But actually, I'm very keen to hear back from people whether we could actually extend it to people who don't just own earthquake-prone buildings. So I'm thinking of people who I don't know, maybe community housing providers, and there may be some other, even churches or whatever, that actually might be sensible, so that we can get the good housing outcomes we want. But my amendment was just around earthquake-prone buildings, and I just wanted to make that clear. I am a little bit concerned about the differential. I think, yeah, homeowners do need to be clear, and renters too, of course, that you will end up paying more. There's going to be less discretionary money if the differential changes. I am disappointed that we couldn't do more on underutilised land. It's deeply frustrating to me that we can't make people do more with their land when, you know, it's not being used at the highest value, but we'll deal with that through the land value, capital value debate. So just lastly, bringing me to the amendment, I'd just like to thank former Mayor Justin Lester for bringing this policy, which was brought at a time of, again, of high housing needs. So there was a remission of $5,000 given to first home building owners. And look, I didn't agree with this when it came, and I just thought, I'll just bring it, vote to bring it back after consultation. But actually, I would like to, after thinking about it, and I sincere apologies for doing this at the last minute, that actually we should kick it out now. We should not be kicking out any tool that is helping people to get into their own homes, and particularly the Mayor will be going to lobby government about helping people own their own home, so we don't want to be taking out a mechanism that we can use to help. It's not a good look. And then, as you heard from Ms Reeves, we can just ask a question about whether the rate's actually high enough, because it's 6 years, $5,000 isn't that much, and I did want some parity with owners of earthquake-prone buildings, so we just get it up to might be $10,000, might be $15,000. Yes, it does mean that other ratepayers will have to pay a bit more, but we all win when people are securely housed. Kia ora.
Councillor O'Neill, do you wish to speak? Councillor Randall.
Can we have questions from officers?
Yes, good idea. I think it'll be Andrea and Raina, so ask your question, Councillor Randall.
So this change was made in terms of the proposed thing. What's the officer advice about why this has been proposed to be removed, and do officers support the amendment?
The original advice that was provided on the removal is that we weren't confident that there was enough visibility of this remission and that people weren't accessing it, so it wasn't really achieving its purpose. So that was why we had suggested it be removed. But the decision whether or not it is in or out is a policy decision that councillors are able to make, and so we're happy either way in terms of the decision that the councillors want to make.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Councillor Chung.
Thanks very much for that. I was looking at the number of people that have applied for the remission, 178 people, and which has given them a subsidy of 440,000. Sorry, an amount of 440,000. Is that what's the proportion of number of permits and new houses that we've had built compared to that 178?
I don't have those numbers. I'm sorry, Councillor Chung.
So is it quite a small number though, or is it? Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Councillor Brown.
As you know, I'm opposed to us taking out the targeted rate from the consultation, but what I'm slightly confused about is that you say that the following are not recommended, which includes the targeted rate, but will be included in the consultation document. So how does it actually work? I mean, how is it, if something's not, like targeted rates are included in the consultation document but are not recommended, what does that actually mean?
I think that's a slightly different question from the first home builders question.
Sorry, we talking about that thing.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
We've already had questions, but let's just answer it now anyway, in the interest of having information.
So can I just clarify your question, Councillor Brown? This is in the content of the consultation document itself. And what I believe you're asking is around the way that we've phrased the targeted rates in the consultation document. A targeted rate needs to be set to actually fund a certain activity. You may make decisions through the LTP process that you want certain activities to be funded, and if I could give an example, that may be a seawall or something similar. What we're saying is that at that point in time, we'll then consider is the best way to fund the cost of that seawall through our targeted rate. But because we don't have this, we haven't made a decision about the seawall in the first instance, we're not in a position to recommend targeted rates until that decision's made. So this is an ongoing process, and we can certainly make those decisions in the LTP and consult with the community on that at that point in time.
But in the policy, I guess I'm looking at it from a policy perspective, if somebody wants to actually make a submission in respect of our policies around targeted rates, they're still at liberty to do so? Is that the...
They would be absolutely entitled to do so.
Okay.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Thune.
Kia ora, this question is back to the amendment. Can I just clarify, when we say that the remission wasn't visible or people weren't accessing it, is there the ability to make it more visible and accessible to people?
Yes, and I'd suggest that even having this conversation with the public would help with that.
Yes, okay. And were the applicants that did go for the remission post-purchase or pre-purchase? Was there a percentage? I think there was some information on that.
We've generally found that it's post-purchase, so after they've built the property, so it's not something that they look for pre-building.
To leverage to actually get the home. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Randall.
Finally, just having this there, is there an administrative overhead to having this rating rebate policy and processing all the things and checking and stuff like that?
Yes, there is, but it's probably relatively small. It's the same with all remissions that we have in place.
Councillor Chung.
My question is similar. Because these applications are actually made post-building, do you think that it has any effect on whether they build or not? Because it is, as you said, Andrea, it's quite a small amount.
I can't answer that question. I haven't had those discussions with those people.
That is sort of the point that's alluded to in the original paper, that the concern that it's not meeting the policy objectives. So, yeah. Thanks, Councillor. Are there any more questions? All right, we'll move on to debate of the amendment. Is there any debate? Councillor Calvert.
I appreciate the sentiments of this, but I can't support it. I think it's been shown that this rates remission for first home buyers has been a sweetener after the fact of purchasing, not as a decision making for purchasing. And I think, like with any funds that we put into any scheme or proposal, is that we actually get value for money from it. Is it really making a difference? And is it really making a difference in terms of getting people to build more houses? I don't believe it is. We haven't seen the evidence to show that. And we really have to, move forward more on evidence-based decisions rather than what might feel good. And I recall, I think it might have been 2017-18, Councillor Bennett, when this was introduced. And like you, it was introduced as part of a broader package. So we thought, well, let's give it a go and see how it works. But I haven't been convinced since that time that it actually has made a difference. And if we're going to utilize this money, maybe it could be used in a much better way. So I believe it should be in this consultation document, and because I believe if we're going to put that money, use that money for things that actually will probably get a better outcome in terms of housing and in some other way. So as I said, I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Councillor Chung.
Similar to Councillor Calvert, I'm very concerned that we've just had a meeting about our finances and we're short of money for everything. And so we need to be putting money where we're getting best value from it. And when I talk to builders and developers regularly, almost on a weekly basis, and they tell me that the biggest problem that potential house builders are actually, or house buyers are actually facing now, is the cost of material and the cost of labour. And so they never ever mentioned that rates will actually make a difference, or the rates rebate will make a difference. And I think that if it doesn't make a difference, if it doesn't affect their decision, which was the intention of the policy, then we need the money, as much as, if not more than anyone else does. So I'm going to vote against that. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Thune.
Kia ora. Pleased to say that I agree with Councillor Chung and Councillor Calvert, but for different reasons. Just agree. I love seeing council come up with good ideas and good initiatives, and this has been one, but really it's demonstrating that it's not working for the purpose that it's intended to, so I'm keen to take it to the public and have the discussion with them. I think that's the fair opportunity here. But I also think the environment has moved on, and that's still a significant amount of money that would make some real difference somewhere else. And I would love to see it going into something like, projects that have social and we know we've got environmental change initiatives, but projects that can help with the social impact, which we don't have anymore. So things like co-housing, and as we know, we've had development contributions or, rates remissions for other projects, and this would be a good place. If we were going to shift money pots around, this would be a good place to do it. So I will be supporting this to go out for consultation, but not the amendment. Thanks, Councillor Pennant.
Councillor O'Neill.
Yeah, just to reiterate the power that this committee has to sort of throw this decision up there, I'd like to thank Councillor Pennant for not only looking into this, but seeing if we could increase the rates remission for first home buyers as well. I think there's no harm in being able to have this conversation. We know that no one policy or action can solve the housing crisis, but it's really important to have every tool fit for the job in the toolbox in order to make the best cumulative effect when we're talking about policy for the housing crisis. Was chatting to Councillor McNulty yesterday, who had chatted with Miriam Moore, and she was one of the people that accessed the first home buyers rates remission and said remission was certainly nice, especially in a time when interest rates soared in between purchasing of the plans and settling. So we know that there is real world impact, and very recently, most of you people will know Miriam as well. We know someone who has tangibly benefited from a policy like this, and I think it's important we retain it, and just also to thank the previous successive councils for putting this forward, and we had this korero last time, and I think it's important that we retain it. Cheers.
Councillor McNulty, do you have your hand up to speak?
Yes, I do. Yeah, look, I'm not going to lose sleep on this if it doesn't succeed, but I will support it. I've spoke to two residents, so Miriam was one, and there's another one at Tōtōpū Rise, which is the new development in Tawa, that have both accessed the scheme, and I got the quote, it was very much played a part in us choosing new over built. So we are relying on anecdotal evidence. There isn't high take up here, but I came into this essentially on the same side of the table as Councillor Chung and Calvert, and hearing that anecdotal evidence thinks that it's worth keeping this in the toolbox. So I'll support the amendment, but I understand that it may, if it goes out to consultation, it's not the end of the world. Kia ora.
Councillor Wineta.
Tēnā tātou. I think that Councillors Chung, Calvert and the Deputy Mayor are correct in saying that this has lagged behind its policy objective in terms of encouraging new builds. That said, I think there is a wider benefit to this policy. Once one has established a household, the costs of your first little while are quite significant, and I think all of those factors that you have to consider, furnishing the home, setting up all your new things, and particularly for people who are in urban areas who may not have their folks or other whānau nearby, could really benefit from this. So yes, I think it's a correct analysis to say it maybe hasn't quite hit the mark of what we were going for initially, but I think that there are wider benefits to this policy that bear it being maintained. So I'll wait to hear the debate and the right of reply, but I think I'm inclined to support this amendment.
Councillor Randall.
Yes, thank you for the debate. It's been interesting, and also for the facts. I don't support this amendment. I think the officer's judgment about it possibly not working as intended is true. I'm also quite concerned about the point that was raised by Councillor Foon, that this is a significant amount of money, and it shouldn't be. All of our money should go in a well-targeted way. I'm for example, thinking of the challenges we're going to have with zero waste and apartment blocks. And there's some big issues to be sorted out in terms of dealing with that, and that will take real money. This has not really been successful, but it still cost us $400,000. If it's very successful, we're actually contributing millions of dollars of rates towards this, but this rates rebate is not targeted very well. And wealthy people are able to get this rates rebate, as well as people who are struggling. Now, I know it is a struggle to get a house, but we have a number of tools that we have in the toolbox that we are going to focus to improve our housing. And I really don't think that this is a very good tool to actually make sure that our money, which we're going to forego in terms of a rates rebate, is well targeted. I'd much rather have something that is very narrowly pointed towards social housing, towards things like community facilities, those things that improve the amenity such that we can attract people into Wellington. And I'm also very concerned that we are facing a bit of a financial tsunami. I mean, every dollar is going to count, and I'm reluctant to put something towards the public which we may not be able to afford. And so for those reasons, the fact that it is still going to, if it's successful, it's going to cost us millions, but it's not well targeted, and we have higher priorities than this. Much as I support more housing, I don't think this is the right tool to do it, so I don't think it should be put to the public, and therefore I am going to vote against this amendment. But I do thank everyone for the points they've made were being very well made.
Councillor Brown.
As you know, I'm extremely interested in affordable housing and improving the affordability of housing, and I think this is a very poor use of our resources in that regard. But I've spoken to a number of property developers. The particular issue which they've come back to me on is around the cost of consenting and the timeline of consenting. And to be frank, if we had $400,000 of discretionary dough to spend on improving affordability, I would spend it on streamlining our consenting processes. I would not be handing it out as a sort of a general dole out where some people are going to benefit, but most of the people are probably going to find it as just a little bit of a nice to have, in Nikal's words, to help them furnish their homes. So I think this is a very poor use of our funds in an area where we should really be doing a lot, but this is not an efficient way for us to actually deliver the outcome of a bit more affordable housing.
Councillor Free, did you have your hand up to speak?
I was just going to really say that I've been persuaded by other people's arguments, in particular the Deputy Mayor's argument, that and others, that that to take this out of consideration, like we would be doing a disservice in a way to the consultation if we didn't not allow for a conversation. I think the way to allow for a conversation on this is actually not to exclude consideration of removal of the rates remission, but to actually say that could be an opportunity, it could be an option. And you may find that people, once they are threatened with losing something, will think about it much more sharply. So I'm not going to support this for a variety of reasons, but that's probably the main one.
All right, I see no further hands up, so Councillor Pannett, right of reply.
Thank you. I wasn't anticipating such a large debate because I thought it was actually relatively straightforward. So I do actually have quite a lot of points because there's some big issues that have been raised here. First of all, the visibility. Well, that's because we haven't publicised it. So now we have publicised it. Even through this debate, it may be reported on. So there's always more that we can do. My point is that it does help people in the longer term. Everything that we can do to help people get into that home, and Councillor Winero, your point is well taken. There are lots of other costs in establishing a home. It means more ratepayers. Come on, we don't want people renting, we want people owning, and then they can pay us more money. And like I say, it gives us a stable population, particularly for people with children. Not a good idea to be continuously moving around. These better outcomes that have been talked about by some councillors haven't actually been articulated that well. And I note that no one brought any amendments. So if you wanted to do something better, then they haven't been brought. And that would have been I think would have been helpful. I don't agree, Deputy Mayor Foon, that it's not working for the purpose it was intended. Look, there are over or nearly 200 individuals or families that have been assisted by this, and if we publicise it, more will do it, and if we increase the amount, it will help. This whole thing about co-housing, well, again, an amendment wasn't brought up, and also it's not an either or. We can do both. Councillor Randall, I'm not convinced by your argument. It is a well-targeted one. We want people to have their own homes. This is why the policy was put in place, to make sure that people could get into the market in the first place. The big issues that we have to resolve are going to be done by having more people paying us rates, as I said. I don't agree that we have a number of tools in the toolbox through the chair. That is not actually true. The problem is we don't have enough tools. This is a problem. And like I said, we need to be able to go to government and say we're doing everything we can. It's not going to cost millions of dollars. Maybe it might cost $2 million, but it's not going to cost millions and millions. And finally, Councillor Brown, $440,000 or $1 million is not going to do much to, and will not be effective in improving our consenting processes. There's lots of issues in there, and this amount of money is not a well-targeted way to spend it. So I do encourage you to support this amendment, to look at increasing its value, because, as I say, we all win when people are well housed. Kia ora. Can we have a division?
Yes, okay, so we'll ask for a division and we will vote on that amendment. This could, again, show some interesting mixes. Love to see it when there's anticipation about the vote. So this is to increase our anticipation. All right, I don't want to declare too quickly. That is lost. Thank you, councillors. All right, we'll move back to the substantive. Councillor Brown, did you have your hand up to no? Okay, does anybody wish to debate the substantive? Or if you've got all your thoughts out? You've got all your thoughts out. All right. I do not need a right of reply, so we'll go on to vote for the substantive. Thank you. Councillor Free? Ka whakapuaki au kua mana te mōtene. I declare the motion carried. Right, we now move on to the actions tracking and the forward program. Shall we take them together? No mai Andrea Reeves, ki te horo I te kōrero.
I will take the papers as read.
All right. Sure, yes. Okay. All right. We'll just wait for a minute. I will move these motions and Councillor Ipanovic will second them. Oh, I think it may have been for council. Okay, all right. So is there any, there's no questions? Is there any debate on those? There does not seem to be. Okay, and that is carried. All right, we will now move on. The officers recommend that the public is excluded from the following part of the proceedings of this meeting, and that is. And I also want you to note that the appropriate parts of this report will be publicly released immediately following this meeting. So this, the reason is this is to protect the privacy of natural persons. And so I will move that we go into public excluded. Councillor Panovich will second. If we could vote on that, please. You will get morning tea no matter what, Councillor Brown. But only if you vote. Only if you vote now. Thank you, councillors. We'll just give a minute to turn everything off. Well, not everything, but you know.